You're watching a presentation that was given on October 13, 2007, entitled 4 Things to Tell an Atheist. We can begin by taking a look at some of the atheists that live in the Seattle area. For example, I went to a website called the Atheist Meetup and found all kinds of atheists that live in the Seattle proper area. For example, Chris from Kirkland says in his bio that he's a recent convert and his wife hopes that he'll get better. When asked how long have you been an atheist or agnostic, 1 year, ever since I caught the second half of a late-night C-SPAN talk show by Sam Harris. Where did you hear about this meetup group? Web search for Seattle atheists and organizations. What do you hope to find? First, talk with people who share my views. I'm not a freak, right? Second, activism. What, if anything, should we do to ensure that rational thought wins out over ideology and superstition? Okay, and so why do you hate God? Smirk. Which God? One of the things you're going to find common among atheists, and common among the atheists that I found living in the Seattle area, is they all have a high view of rationality, and they are looking for some type of fellowship and activism. The next one is a man by the name of Win Day who lives in Bellevue, and I listed here the groups that he actually belongs to. The Linwood Draft Al Gore Meetup, the Seattle Skeptics Meetup, the Seattle Humanism Meetup, Eastside Atheist Agnostic Meetup, Seattle Atheist Agnostic Meetup, the Eastside Brights Meetup. Now, this gives us the impression, or gives us an understanding, that this is a man that is committed to the atheistic worldview. This would actually put many Christians to shame as far as their involvement in their local church. This is a guy that's committed to his ideology, committed to hooking up with others that have the same ideology, and making a difference when it comes to his ideology. The next guy is Tyler, and he says he lives in Seattle. He says, moving back to Seattle after being in Philadelphia all summer, I'm excited to get back to the great Northwest and meet some fellow atheists. Anyone want to protest religious events with me? When asked how long have you been an atheist, not long enough. I was a Christian from 13 to 24. I'm 26 now, so about 2 years. What do you hope to find? Friends and fellow active atheists. And then there's Jeff from Issaquah, who says, I'm a longtime atheist, libertarian, and general skeptic to conventional wisdom. So I guess Jeff actually prefers unconventional wisdom, such as atheism. He is the organizer for the Eastside Brights Meetup. Now, this is the second time we've seen this word in our presentation. There is an attempt on the part of some atheists to change atheist to the term brights, so that it will be a more accepted, more pleasant-sounding name for their worldview other than atheism. Atheism sounds so harsh, and so they thought that they would come up with something that is easy on the ears and points to their superior intellect. So they call themselves brights. This worked in the homosexual movement. The homosexuals eventually changed homosexuality into gay. There's also Tyler Waite. He lives in Redmond, and the meetup groups that he belongs to are the Seattle Democrats, the Eastside Brights, the Seattle Skeptics, the Seattle Atheist, the Eastside Atheist and Agnostics. Once again, a very busy and active atheist in the Seattle community. There's also Aaron, who lives in Seattle. When asked, how long have you been an atheist? He said, quote, I'd say I've been at least agnostic most of my life. I finally took some time to think through the whole concept, and logic prevailed. There certainly is no God or gods. End quote. Now, this is an interesting statement. Logic prevailed, and there certainly is no God or gods. I'd like to find out what his premise was that brought him to the conclusion that there certainly is no God or gods. And then there's Rick from Polsbo. When asked how long have you been an atheist, he says, it was a slow progression out of early religious indoctrination, through a master's in theology, into finally questioning the basic assumption, does God truly exist? Alas, I could no longer continue to check my mind at the door, and faith lost out. Notice once again, he's contrasting faith and reason as if they are antithetical to one another. When asked, what do you hope to find? He says, open-minded people who are willing to look at the possibility of a better world that can come out of rational thought and science. Once again, we see rational thought and science is the God of atheism. This presentation, entitled 4 Things to Tell an Atheist, comes in the form of the acronym MUCH. M stands for morals. U, uniformity of nature. C, concepts and laws that are universal. H, human dignity. I've tried to put this in the form of an acronym that can be memorized so that you can quickly reference it in your dialogues with atheists. The first letter of our acronym is M, which stands for morals. And we list this one first because the question becomes, where do morals come from? How do we know what morals are? Many atheists say it's wrong for Christians to tell atheists that they can't be moral. This is what we call a straw man. Christians should never say that atheists can't be moral. What Christians should say is that atheists have no basis for their morality. After all, if morality includes corruption, that which is forbidden, good, our duty toward other men, wrong, right, how can we know for sure what is right and what is wrong? Well, for the atheist, there are 2 basic options. Number 1, good is what evokes approval. Now, this usually comes in 2 subset forms. First of all, there is social approval, and then there is individual approval. Let's take a look at social approval. Some have argued that there is what's called social contract. That is, that society as a whole determines what is right. I will do for you what is beneficial to me. You treat me in a way that's beneficial to you. The problem with that is there was never a time when society got together, took a consensus, sat down, and decided what was socially approved of and what was not, what was socially moral and socially immoral. So as soon as you say that society is what determines morality, what do you do with a man like Adolf Hitler? He was the leader of a society. He existed in a society that wanted to take over the world. And so once we say that society is what gives social approval, we can never say that any particular society has acted immorally. And then there is individual approval, which is the philosophy among non-Christians and atheists that teaches that we do that which promotes our genetic continuation. And so we do these things that protect us and that preserve us. The problem with that, as soon as we allow individuals to determine what is moral, everything becomes purely subjective. For example, there's a group in America called NAMBLA, the National Association for Man-Boy Love. Now, most people would say that that's immoral to have sex with young boys. But if you've got a 14-year-old boy that is consenting, and you've got an old 60-year-old man that's consenting, according to the standard of individual approval, we have no problem. It's perfectly moral to have a 60-year-old man having sex with a 14-year-old boy. And you say, well, he's a minor. Well, there are countries that are making the legal age of consensual sex at age 14 for both boys and girls. And then there was the boy that was 18 years old that was prosecuted and jailed because he killed his neighbor's dog by having sex with it. He was seeking his individual good. He was seeking his individual satisfaction. Who was to say that he was hurting anything or anybody? It was just a dog. So how are we as a society to tell him that what you did was wrong? Just one animal having sex with another animal. Now, some have argued that the fact that he physically injured the dog was enough right there to make it an immoral act. Now, first of all, you are redefining what a moral act is. Now you've also included the aspect of injury. The problem with that is that there is also women who commit bestiality with animals. And there's no harm done on those animals. So does that mean it's only immoral for males to have sex with animals and it's perfectly moral for women to have sex with animals? You see, once we appeal to some subjective form of morality, such as individual approval, you've got a problem.